Yo, what is up guys? Chase Arevalo back at you with another video, and I'm super pumped today to come at you guys with a banger video. We're going to be reviewing Albert Pedrico Kratsov from TCU versus Neo Yedner from University of San Diego. All right, we got a good one here, so let's get straight into it, guys. If you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Chase Arevalo. I played D1 tennis at Georgia Southern University. I coached then at IMG Academy, where I was mentored by Nick Bollettieri, among the other coaches there. And after I left there with an amazing letter of recommendation from the coaching staff there, I then moved down to Boca Raton, Florida. And I dropped out of college, moved down to Boca Raton, Florida, and I worked under Rick Macy as a coach there. And then within 6 months, I went from having literally 0 lessons to being fully booked out. And he promoted me to become a director because of that and because of the results that I had for students. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm here to help you guys. So if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and let's get straight into it, guys. That was awesome. Notice, guys, how he wanted to change direction, but because he's moving, because he's on the run, he's gonna opt to the open stance, and he can still change direction. But the open stance is the modern way to play, guys. So take that, apply it for yourself. Even there, notice the ball was shorter. Look, returns deep. The priority is not to place it way to the side, way to the side. The priority on your returns, guys, especially first serve returns, has to be depth as a priority, number one, before anything else. Then look, shorter ball, he notices, he takes a step forward with the right foot, and it's pointed about 45 degrees forward. That's something that you can copy. If you're going to the open stance and it's a shorter ball, position your foot like this. It will keep you more stable and keep your knee in a better oriented position. When it's in line there, a little bit more forward. Great patience in the cross-court rally. It's a relatively short ball. Change direction. Now he's on the run here. Go cross again. Good ball. So look, he missed that a little bit long. That was a good miss. That was a really good miss. So if you're in the point there and you hit a similar shot, that's as long as you know your intention was correct, right? And you had a good intention with the shot, it's that you missed it. You know, just make that micro adjustment. So notice there, look. He goes down the line. His opponent's setting up in the one-hander. Notice on his one-hander, something that he does very well technically is notice how his right elbow was locked out from contact as he follows through and as he rolls and as he turns over and he internally or actually externally rotates his shoulder. So you can apply that on your ground strokes as well, even if you have a two-hander or you're talking about your forehand. On your forehand, when you're brushing, make sure that it starts bent, but then you get it straight before you turn your hips and as you go to contact. And then as you roll and you internally rotate your shoulder, which is where it should be coming from, not your wrist, not your hand. Coaches who are saying that, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Technically speaking, you have to start the motion internally rotating the shoulder this way. You're going to see it with all the top players, anyone who has optimal technique. So what you can also do is lengthen the lever arm here. And what he does is he keeps his right elbow completely locked out and straight. Let's take a look at it again. Even there, look, it's completely locked out. His opponent goes down the line. We're going to analyze what we were going to analyze there, though. We got a little distracted. So there, look, it's straight, perfect, good. Now, notice this guy over here goes into kind of a semi-open stance, right? So notice he's on the move. He goes to the open stance there. I really like that, even though he could have hit that deeper. I like how he was going into the open. Would I like him to go even more open? Yes. But let's see what he does here. Let's see. Again here. So the ball was slower, right? He had more time. Is that extra time being reflected in the footwork? Or is it casual footwork? Looks a little casual, a little bit casual. Again, there. You can hit that close stance. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if the ball's going to be getting really close to you, they're hitting a fast shot, open stance is a more versatile stance. You're going to have more options that way. So by going to close stance here and not open stance, what's happening is the default is not his hips are being open, which means now he has to do all this extra work to get his hips through the ball. Why not just start with them more open? Why not do that? Why not get in a really wide athletic stance, get wide, get low, and then you can still fire your hips and turn your hips fully. You can still do it, right? However, here you can literally see his hips didn't turn one bit. There was zero hip turn. So I'm not saying that's why he missed it. I'm saying he fucked up on the shot. Let's look at what possibly could he have done better. And that's just what I see. That's my 2 cents there. Again, his elbow's locked out. So one tip for all the players around the world who have one-handed backhands, this tip's literally for you guys. If you want to hit your one-handed backhand cleaner, lock out your right elbow completely before you go to hit your one-hander, all right? And then if you want a little bit more pop on the ball, stop the racket at contact when you're driving through it. Try those 2 tips and let me know how it works for your one-hander. And if you have a two-hander, you could even try that out. Try to hit a one-hander and then apply that tip. See if it helped you hit a better one-hander. And let me know. I know that when I've coached players who had one-handers, that tip's worked wonders for them. And also me learning, I still hit a two-hander, but as a coach, you got to learn how to hit different strokes. So I've learned and I've developed the ability to hit not a great one-handed backhand, but I can make the ball, you know, and I can hit it clean through the ball, right? Because I understand the biomechanic principles and I've done quite a bit of volume as well.
At Byberg, we're experts in small business insurance. We think through every risk
That's
factor.
the nature of coaching though. You're going to hit a lot of balls. You're going to get pretty good feel unless you're just a total bum. It's a big serve. I like the open stance. So there, look, notice how he's slicing here. There's a reason why he's slicing. He's kind of forced to slice here, right? So where did he lose control? Where did he make a bad decision, potentially, right? Because look, maybe he wins this point, but he's out of control now. He's having to chip the ball now. So let's go back. Let's see. So, serves body, nothing crazy there. He picks a corner and goes to it. He goes to this corner here, gets it back deep. That's good. Open stance, ball cross court. That's good. He's open stance. He goes down the line and he hits a short ball. So automatically, when you're going down the line, you got to have the standard for yourself. Bro, you got to get the ball past this line here. Unless you're ripping it really big or you're taking it really early and your opponent's way off the court, your default has to be getting that ball deeper if you want to do damage. Because what we're going to get to is this now, where if you don't, right, and you hit it short like that, you're fucked. You're totally fucked. Because now this guy goes open stance with the one-hander, amazing technique on his backhand, right elbow's locked out. As he externally rotates his shoulder, that's his shoulder, it's not his wrist. Look at his wrist. His wrist isn't moving. His wrist isn't moving. But you guys don't want to hear that. All right? Now, he puts him on the run with the cross-court ball. So if you get that ball shorter and then you go cross-court with that backhand, your goal is, I'm putting this guy on the run, and worst case, I want to get kind of easy ball next. If you can't, hit a winner, etc. Right? So oftentimes you're going to get a ball like this now, right? Where now he's on the run and he's maybe not comfortable hitting his backhand on the run, so he goes to the slice, right? And decent slice. Now let's see how the rally resets. Great patience, gets the ball back deep, very clean. Wow. Wow, that was a good change. Nothing you can do there, that's just too good. Great serve. Notice, he's just letting go of the racket with his left hand once the ball bounces. Now, notice, as he's hitting the ball, when he's preparing, his right elbow is slightly elevated and it's a little bit bent. So you can see the clear bend in his right elbow. Now, after he lets go of the left hand and he sets the racket to the right side of his body, his right elbow is going to go from bent to fully straight. It's going from bent to fully straight. And doing that motion effectively isn't easy to do overnight. But what is happening is the elbow is going from bent to straight. Again, there. He drops his left arm a little bit early on the forehand technically. That's something he could clean up if he wants to. But his forehand is still really good, hits all the checkpoints basically. Again, what's a principle that he's doing here again, just like the other guy did? He keeps the left hand on the racket until the ball bounces, bro. The racket stays on the right side of his body. Clean serve. Still on. He's just letting go now. Yeah, so technically, he doesn't take it back too far. It's still an ATP stroke. But what you'll see is, this guy could actually clean up his forehand. I believe he could hit an even better forehand if he elevated his right elbow a little bit so that he could set the racket a little bit more naturally to the right side. You'll see how on the stroke, he takes it a little bit behind the hitting side. Not saying you can't be an amazing player with that. Obviously, this guy is a very successful player. Very fucking good player. However, with his body, could he do a little better? I think the forehand would work better if he wasn't pulling from this position all the way here. If he was keeping it a little bit more on the right side of his body, I think that would help him. But very small detail there. This is just one forehand. I have to kind of analyze his forehand more and see as he hits more forehand. So you don't want to make too many judgments off one situation. You want to make sure it's kind of what they're doing consistently, right? Because it could be a one-off scenario, especially with this level of player. But I'll keep breaking it down. Yeah, so like for here, for example, his hand stays on the right side, right? So, yeah, I mean, this guy does a great job. Very small details. I'm being very picky with that. Which is a good thing. You guys should expect that from your coaches. They should be picky about that stuff. So he sliced that, right? But he actually did amazing footwork on this return here, guys. Really, really high level stuff here. Because what I look at is he got the ball back deep, which is great, which is like you did your job 100% well on that return, right? So look, he splits, he puts his weight on his outside leg, holds it, right? And then times it where he pushes off the left, makes contact, and then the right foot is starting to touch down. So notice that is the timing, technically speaking, right? Let's take a look again. He splits. Great split step. Look at his wide base. This is textbook. If you're somebody back home looking for somebody to copy this guy's stance here. This is textbook. Very good. You're not going to be led astray by copying that. Now, you can see he doesn't have any weight on his right leg. All of it's on his left leg. He's holding the weight there. He's balancing all on his left leg. Now, as he's going through his motion, his weight is still on his left leg. Then he makes contact. The ball already left his strings here. And now his foot hasn't touched the ground yet, but it's about to touch the ground. So that nuance of that timing will help you tremendously on returns. A lot of times with players, very simple thing, it's like a very high leverage activity that they can fix, is do this instead of taking the step first with the right leg, putting it on the ground, transferring your weight fully, and then trying to hit it. What I've seen is more often than not, athletes time it way better doing what I just described there and what this player is just demonstrating here. So let's continue. And like I said, what triggered my brain to look for something like that was the fact that he hit a good shot here, right? When he could have just maybe hit a slice with short, or maybe floating in the middle, but he did a pretty good damaging slice, right? So those are the ones where then look at what the guy did. Look at what the guy did to get that result, right? Because everything in tennis is cause and effect. So I like how he keeps his left arm straight when he lets go of the racket and keeps his shoulder turned pretty well. I love the open stance here. That's awesome. Again, open stance is good there. Good open stance. He could make that, but it's obviously riskier than going back cross. Good depth on that backhand. Very good depth. Wow. It makes sense why he's got a great slice, because he's got a one-hander. Usually players with one-handers have a very developed slice because they've got so many reps at it. One thing that this guy does really, really well on his serve is he pushes his right foot from this position right here, where it's directly under his body. When you can position your foot like that, it's going to help you get more of a vertical component going up on your serve. So if you're looking for more jump up, right, and not so much weight transfer like forward, try this stance out, where you're going to be able to get directly more launch going upwards. You see how he's directly going up because his foot is positioned there. Oh, I like that serve. The best part about that was the fact that he made contact a few feet inside the baseline. Really, really high level stuff there. Taking the ball early. That was good. Wow. It's a crazy shot. Down the line on the approach. Yeah. It's a great shot. Could you have gotten a racket on that? Let's see. My opinion is if you can get the racket on the ball, go for it, right? Only let it go if you know for sure the ball's going out. Because my opinion is, dude, it's another rep that you can get better. It's another rep that, I mean, you can make the shot, right? Like, especially if it's not too difficult of a ball. I mean, this was a good shot. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. He would have been really on the stretch there, but I still think you got to try to put a racket on it if you can. That's a great shot, though.
Who's coming in the driveway? Goodness.
My daughter is being treated for leukemia.
Oh, he was in. Wow. Great job with the left hand. Make the forehand, bro. Tough one. That was just a good shot. Nothing you can do there. One thing for you guys also to check on your forehand is, look, with your right elbow, with your hitting elbow, if you're lefty, your left elbow. What do I say a lot? I talk about how getting the elbow longer, getting a longer right elbow, it's gonna be a longer lever, which means you're going to be able to get more power. That's just the physics of it. That's just a physics thing there with any sport. However, what you'll notice is not every player has perfect technique where it's pencil straight. They're like Alcaraz where it's out in front and it's like that, right? So it's like, well, I realized there was one day where I realized that and I was like, shit, like this is what is happening. And like I look at Djokovic, like his elbow's not like totally straight. Like Rafa's is, you know, Federer's is, Alcaraz, but like Djokovic doesn't do it, right? This guy doesn't do it. That guy doesn't do it. This girl doesn't do it. This girl doesn't do it, whatever. And that's true. I realized, I was like, this is a fact. I'm like, why don't they all have that? Because look, there is personal preference to it, right? And not everyone, you know, has worked on developing that. However, what you'll see is the timeless principle, time and time again, in general, is let's say they're not totally straight before they're coming forward, right? And let's say there's some bend in it, right? Like they're here, they're going forward, and there's a little bit of bend. What you'll notice is the best players who even have success with that, they keep the angle, whatever length that is, consistent from the start of pulling forward and contact. In general, as a general rule, there might be minor fluctuations, but in general, you're gonna notice they start with that bend, right? They're bent, and then they set the angle to a certain degree, whether that's straight, whether that's a little bit of bend. But then as they turn their hips, right? They turn their body to get the arm to come forward. They turn their hips, they push from the ground, they turn their hips, turn their body to get the arm to come forward, right? So they're turning their body to get the arm to pull forward, as well as there is an arm component of it as well. All right. But the lesson for you guys is maybe I have a little bit of bend in the elbow, but can I keep that same angle and make sure I don't bend it more, right? Or it's actually a good thing to try to get it more straight as you're doing the motion. So you don't have to worry about getting it too straight. But the main thing is, it's if you have some bend in it, but is that bend the same throughout the stroke as you're going to the ball, right? Even if it is a little bit bent. Because even if there's some bent, you can still make it work at a really high level, especially if you're a really good athlete, obviously, right? So that's my 2 cents there. And that's like a good technical tip that you can apply. It's helped hundreds of my students out.
Oh.
Approach down the line because he wasn't confident he could hit a winner inside out or cross. So notice. So let's notice. He hit an approach shot down the line here, right? His opponent went where? Where did he go? He had it baked in. Passing shot, I'm going to go down the line. So very simple. For you back home, passing shot, go down the line. As a general rule, as a framework to work with. Then you can get more nuance with it, the higher level you get. But if you're just out there whacking balls, you have no clue where you're hitting, and you want something simple so you can just go out and execute, highly recommend adopting that framework. You'll be right more than you're wrong. Promise you that.
So good, Nina. Let's go.
George down the line. Good shot.
Let's go.
It's huge. What the fuck? Solid. Solid match. Solid match. But yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments below. Let me know your biggest takeaway from this video and what are you going to apply into your next match. Let me know in the comments, guys. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace.